The head of the Russian Navy, Admiral Nikolai Yevmenov, said that more than 50 warships and about 40 aircraft took part in the exercises in the Bering Sea, the Military Times reported. The war games that have been started since last week are said to be the biggest war games ever conducted since Soviet times. As Admiral Yermanov said in a statement released by the Russian Ministry of Defense, "We held massive military exercises there for the first time. We are building our strengths to ensure economic development in the region. We're used to the Arctic region." The Russian military has rebuilt and expanded many military facilities in the Arctic region in recent years. The Russian military has rebuilt and expanded many military facilities in the Arctic region in recent years. Starting from repairing the runway to deploying air defense assets. The Arctic region is a government priority because it is believed to contain a quarter of the undiscovered oil and gas. Had estimated that the value of mineral wealth in the region reached US $30 trillion. Russia's Pacific Fleet, whose forces are taking part in the exercise, said the nuclear-powered submarine Omsk and the missile cruiser Varyag had launched cruise missiles at training targets in the Bering Sea as part of the exercise. Onyx cruise missiles were also fired at training targets in Anadyr Bay on the coast of the Chukchi Peninsula. The location of the military exercise, which is close to the territory of the United States, has made a number of local fishermen confused. And Russian submarines appear to surface and make fishermen surprised. U.S. Northern Command spokesman Bill Lewis reported that Russian military exercises were conducted in international waters and quite far from U.S. territorial boundaries. Lewis said the North American Aerospace Defense Command and U.S. North Command had been closely monitoring the sub's movements. He said there had not been any suspicious contact from the Russian side. If at any point the Russian Navy needed assistance, Lewis said the U.S. Northern Command would be ready to provide the assistance it needed. The Russian military has rebuilt and expanded many facilities across the Arctic region in recent years. The country prioritizes its military presence in the region, which accounts for up to a quarter of the undiscovered oil and gas. In the air, U.S. jets in Alaska typically scramble to intercept about a half dozen approaching Russian aircraft a year, outliers on the long-range nuclear bomber patrols that Russia resumed in 2007. But this year that number has risen to 14, on pace to set a record since the Cold War era. In the most recent case, last month, the United States responded to the approach of 2 Russian bombers and 2 Russian fighters that came within 30 nautical miles of Alaskan shores. Russians have refurbished and restored dozens of military posts in the Arctic region, including on Wrangel Island, some 300 miles from the coast of Alaska, and have laid plans for controlling emerging navigation routes that would bring traffic through the Bering Strait between Alaska and Russia. This summer, Russia's military operated in the Bering Sea, home to America's largest fishery, where boats haul up pots crawling with red king crab, and trawlers dump nets filled with 200 tons of pollock onto their decks. The area is the U.S. pathway to the Arctic waters, where extraction companies have worked for years to capture the billions of dollars of oil and gas resources trapped under the sea floor. U.S. territorial waters extend 12 nautical miles from the nation's shores, but commercial vessels operate even farther within the U.S. exclusive economic zone, a territory stretching some 200 miles offshore in which the country can harvest fish or natural resources without foreign competition but cannot prohibit the passage of international vessels. Russian military leaders have touted the exercises in the Bering Sea as unlike any they had done before in the region. They said the goal of the effort was to prepare forces to secure economic development in the Arctic region, and U.S. officials have acknowledged that the Russians have a right to transit the waters. Senator Dan Sullivan of Alaska, a Republican, who has been pressing for years for a stronger U.S. presence in the Arctic and has warned of increasing Russian activity there, said fishing vessels should not be forced to leave U.S. fishing grounds. He said he was surprised by the scale of Russia's recent aggressive actions in the Bering Sea, noting that during the same exercise in August, warplanes from the North American Aerospace Defense Command, or NORAD, rushed to respond to the 3 Russian aircraft groups approaching Alaska. Coast Guard officials said they have been working to make sure future notifications reach the right people. They have also said that U.S. fishing vessels were not required to follow any orders from a foreign entity to depart American fishing grounds. But in a memo last month to those involved in the North Pacific fishing industry that outlined what had transpired in the Bering Sea, the Coast Guard also cautioned that safety of life at sea should always be paramount in managing the safe navigation of any vessel on the high seas, and is the responsibility of the mariner with first-hand situational awareness. As Russia has ramped up its presence in the region, U.S. officials have accelerated their own efforts. The Coast Guard has long complained that its lone pair of aging icebreakers are struggling to stay in service but may now have the opportunity to build 6 new ones. The United States is also discussing a northern deepwater port, perhaps around Nome. Currently, the nearest strategic port is 1,300 nautical miles away in Anchorage. Alaska already draws a relatively large portion of U.S. military spending, with bases serving the Air Force and the Army in or around both Anchorage and Fairbanks. Jets in Alaska repeatedly scrambled this year to intercept Russian aircraft moving toward U.S. airspace. But jets taking off from inland bases can take more than 90 minutes to reach the coast of Alaska, said Maj. General Scott Clancy, a Canadian officer who is the director of operations at NORAD.